AIM members Lere and Eddie Robinson, along with their 3 daughters, live in a suburb of Columbia, South Carolina. As an AIM director, Lere has been active in her AIM business, Alive Again, doing nutritional consulting. Earlier this year, Lere formed a committee to plan for and conduct a sizable and successful AIM-focused health conference called The Raw Truth. She and her team organized this major community event, which was held at the Columbia Conference Center. In the span of the 4-hour conference, Lere did a presentation on the endocrine system.
Your endocrine system is every organ in the body that secretes a hormone. So if your blood pressure is too high or too low, it's your endocrine. If you just look at food and you pick up 2 pounds, it's your endocrine. If you eat and you eat and you eat and you eat and you never pick up weight, it's your endocrine. If you're constipated, did you know it's your endocrine system?
AIM Training Director and Product Specialist Keith Duff gave a presentation on how to improve the quality of life with AIM products.
The Garden Trio, I call it a salad in a glass. You mix it up in one quick glassful, you drink it, guess what? You just consume like 6 to 9 servings of vegetables. Bam, just like that.
AIM biologist Philip Germain spoke about his impressive weight loss success using AIM's weight loss program and products.
What I decided to do and what I did was I started these AIM products. And I started taking them religiously, every day, incorporating ways to put them into my diet, not just by drinking the product, but putting them into, like Lere has, putting them into actual foods, like granola bars and some kind of chocolate truffle, which I wish I had back then, and I will make when I get home. So I made some changes, and I started losing weight.
Also featured at the meeting were moving testimonies.
I thank God for this wonderful green grassy liquid. This is AIM's Barley Life, and what I do is I mix it up in the morning and I go off to work, and because I can't really take my juicer up to work, you know, but this is wonderful for me. Wherever I go, any time of the day, I can still have the nutrients.
And gradually, through reading and research and the AIM products, I found that life could be better. I actually became convinced that I should only be eating things that grow from the earth.
Lere and her team put in the effort to coordinate a successful meeting, including products and literature, and many great door prizes. They reached out and got the community involved in this event, including personal trainers, organic farmers, a supermarket, and others. Lere's husband Eddie, as well as their daughters, all dove in to help ensure it would be a success. Lere was kind enough to sit down and talk with us about being a part of the AIM family, business building, how she went about putting her conference together, and how you can do it too. How were you introduced to AIM and the AIM products? Do you have a testimony?
Back in 1997, we organized an international missions conference called GCOE, Global Consultation on World Evangelization, where we had over 4,500 international people attending, and we were working 19 hours a day. And there was no balance. We were just working so hard, and my colon, now I found out afterwards, was the weak place in my body, literally packed up from all the stress. And I ended up in hospital. I lost 13 pounds. And I was home recovering. They had sent me home with a bag full of pills with this diagnosis. And a friend said to me, "Come on, you need to get out and go to a Bible study." And so I did. And lo and behold, the Bible study was hosted by Joan van Rensburg, who is my upline and Chairman's Club Director. And as I walked into the door, she felt the Lord saying, "Invest in this girl." And she just approached me and said, "I'm doing a series of health classes. I feel the Lord saying I need to invest in you and sponsor you." And the rest is history. And maybe I can just say, together with that, she sowed Barley Life into my life. And it was such an amazing story because I really am passionate about sending this. My husband and I are in the full-time missions, and things were going tough, and we went to a park, and we were just lying in the park and just talking and chatting, and I had my Bible with me, and I opened my Bible, and there was that scripture that says, "In the springtime of the year, it will become green all around." And way back then, our product was called Barley Green, And of course now it's AIM Barley Life. And the Lord had given that scripture, and then straight after that I was introduced to the barley. And I started using it, and people around me started noticing. My color was coming back. I had such bad acne that I had a complex. I always used to chat like this with people because I had acne on my face. And probably about 4 or 5 days, I could start seeing a difference, with using the Barley Life. So it literally has changed my life. I always say I am married to AIM. And the reason I say that, because when you use a product, and I get very emotional about it, but when you use a product for 15 years and your children have never been on an antibiotic or never had an ear infection, and you use a product that doesn't fail you, why use something else? And I think this is a lot of people's biggest problem here in America and in the world, is they never get breakthrough with their health because they do not persevere with what they're using. The multi-level or the supplemental industry is huge. And, every so often there's a new company coming, promoting a new thing, and people ride the wave, and then it's this, and then it's the antioxidants, and then it's the good fats. And it's, in my opinion, when you use a product that works for you, why use something else? And that's how I feel about AIM. I feel that it's worked for me. It's that whole thing, if the light bulb works, why change it? And that's where I am. I will never, they say never, you never say never, but I will never use anything except AIM.
How did you get started doing AIM meetings?
My upline, Joan van Rensburg, always inspired me to do meetings in South Africa. Way back then, I was not as knowledgeable as what I am now, and I didn't have the experience I've had now. So I pulled together the meetings and got the people there, and she came in and spoke. And so she introduced me to that concept. And so when I came to America and I was on my own, I had to step out of my comfort zone. And it started off with arriving, and about 8 months after we'd arrived, I called 6 of my friends and I said, hey, I want you to come. I'm going to do a talk on the endocrine system and which foods negatively and positively affect it. And that was my first meeting. And 2 days later, 17 women RSVP'd. And it's just grown from there. So I think probably Joan van Rensburg, my upline, definitely inspired me to step out of my comfort zone. She just said, you don't do it, you never grow. So you got to do it someday.
How did your vision for putting on this larger meeting come about? And how did you first begin to organize for it?
I woke up one morning and I said to my husband, you know what? I said, my love, it's always been a dream of mine to do something here in Columbia, in this conference center. The conference center where he always has his live school or ministry fundraisers, because it's just such a beautiful venue. It's just so professional and just has such a nice feel. And he said, well, if that's what you feel God's saying, you need to do it. And so the way I did it was, I used some of my experience from my previous meetings that we did with the breast cancer, and then a very dear friend of mine and colleague, Christine Costeros, also was hosting, and she and I used to get together once a week, a few weeks prior to both of our events, and I'd share some of my ideas and she shared some of hers. And so I think that's key, is when members, even though they're spread across the country or the world, can share ideas, because it really helps each other grow each other's business. So one thing I did find was that, and I would encourage anyone wanting to do a big meeting for the first time, is that make sure you have enough committee members. Otherwise you spread very thinly, and it does put pressure on especially people who organize it. So I think the larger the committee, the better.
Tell us about the committee you formed and mobilized to help organize and conduct your meeting.
The way I mobilized my committee was, they were basically my downline. And these, when you come in from a different culture and you enter a different country, you literally start over. You lose your whole identity. And so in South Africa, I was known in my community, I was known by my clients, I was known by my friends, people used to get products. And then I came and I lost to another country and I lost my whole culture. It's like, where do you start? You know, the husband goes back to work, the children go back to school, and here you sit. Everything you once did was now gone, and you've got to start over. You don't know someone, you don't know anyone. And so, so for me, it was a thing of walking a road with people. Because when you walk a road with people, you earn the right to speak into their lives. And I feel I've walked a road with most of the women that were on my committee. And I earned the right to ask them if they can help me. And so, yeah.
What were some of the challenges you had to overcome?
You know, obviously it's always money. So, you know, your first thoughts comes to mind, okay, you have this vision. And my spiritual father, Willie Crew, always shared with me that if your vision doesn't scare you, it's probably not from the Lord. And so whenever the Lord tells me to do something that's so much bigger than what I am, I test it and I go by how I feel, and most of the time it's from Him, because I actually want to run away from it. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I think the biggest obstacle for me was just where do I start? Where do I start? But I have some experience in putting things together, and I just use certain things as starting points, and stepped out into the community and approached stores and businesses that I promote. And I thought, you know what? It's time for you to give back. Because I promote some of these grocery stores and some of these businesses out of pocket because they line up with my vision and what I teach. And I just thought, you know what? You know that saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I did. I started asking for grocery store bags and samples, and you know, AIM has been just so amazing in supporting me in this area. So probably the biggest obstacle would be, you know, how am I going to afford the venue, and how am I going to do this, and how am I going to do that? But when you start walking the road, the doors start opening, and it really is a step of faith.
How did you get the word out about your meeting?
Well, the first thing that I needed to do, and that I knew I needed to do, is design a flyer. So we did. We designed a flyer, and we got them printed, and it was a faith walk for me because I rent an office, which is $250 a month, and it was a case of, do I pay my rent or do I order 2,000 flyers with $250? And I had to get the word out, so I took the plunge, I ordered the flyers, and the Lord provided. A couple of days later, I got consults which provided my rent. So that was my starting point. So I went to people in the community, people who I promote, people who I have a relationship with, gyms, and even coffee shops, restaurants, and I said, listen, we're doing this free community talk. Do you mind putting some of your flyers out? And all of them were willing. I didn't have one person say to me no. And then my committee, I told them I would bless them and pay for the flyers, and of course I distributed flyers to them. And I said, tap into your resources, go to town, where whoever you have relationship with, make sure those flyers get into their hands. Another thing we did to advertise was I do regular health and well-being segments on WIS TV, which is a local channel here in Columbia, South Carolina, and they approached me several months ago to do segments for them. And of course, as we were drawing closer to the conference, they actually advertised it without me even asking them, so which was a tremendous, tremendous privilege.
What are your thoughts about AIM's support and the AIM staff who did presentations at your meeting?
They know their things. They understand the company, they understand the business side, they understand the product. And I think as an AIM member, it's a tremendous relief for me, as you know, to have that backup in case I get a question specifically about products that I'm not quite sure of how to handle. That's one thing I really appreciate, that AIM supports their members, and really when they get behind you, they get behind you. And really, that's part of why I'm with AIM, because of that.
What would you say to AIM members that are looking to build an AIM business?
Use the product and make sure you enjoy the product, and learn all you can about the product. Because when the product starts working for you, you can't keep quiet about it. And when you start sharing with people, people are going to ask you questions. and you want to know your product and understand your product. So that's what I would encourage new members to do. Start using products one at a time and study that product. Like someone who go to university and study something, study that project and make sure you study that product and make sure you understand how it works. I always say to my people, don't you dare tell me an AIM product does not work unless you have used it every single day for 3 months. Not 1 day off, 3 days on, 4 days on, 1 day off. And it sounds crazy. How do you build your business by using? Yes, because when you use the product faithfully, you will know what it does. And when you know what it does, you can market it and not worry that people are going to say to you, it doesn't work. A lot of people, I think will get tremendous benefit just by sharing or making a green smoothie with the leaf greens in or the barley life in and taking it, to a public place, and people will ask, or going to gym and putting it in your bottle. So that's where I would start and use your upline. I really, really believe that as an upline, it is your responsibility to train your people. Because if you don't duplicate, this process cannot go on. So we have to create leaders that can carry on and spread the message.
What would you have to say to an AIM member that wants to start having meetings?
Focus on what you have and not what you don't have. Sometimes we can get caught up with people that have established businesses around us, and you see what they do and what they achieve, and it can discourage you. But one thing I've learned is God has commissioned me and has a tremendous calling and a plan and a purpose for me, Lere Robinson. And I have to focus on that. And so that's what I did. When I arrived here, probably 8 months into us being here, I called 6 friends and I said, we have a little rental house. I can only fit 6 people in my living room. If you're willing to come, I'd like to cook you food. I'd like to do a presentation and teach you about how to keep your hormones healthy. And that's how I started. 2 days later, 17 women RSVP'd from nowhere, and we had to move the venue. 4 months later, a pediatric specialist called me and asked me to please be part of her practice for 2 years. So it's a principle that I live by. Do which you know to do, and the Lord will do the rest.
We understand you have a program called Boot Camp. Can you tell us about that?
I have an advisory committee around me that sort of take care of me so that I don't run myself into the ground, because I tend to give a lot to people at my own detriment. And so they said to me, hey Lere, you've been in the industry for 15 years. You teach certain things. Why don't you use what you have and put it into one thing and teach it? And so they challenged me, and that's the birth of the boot camp. And I went away and I prayed and fasted and I wrote. It took me 6.5 months to write the boot camp. And in section 3, in week 3, I have included supplementation. And so that is where I share the AIM supplements with the people. And so part of the boot camp is that week 3, everyone gets to see the snapshots DVD. Every person attending the boot camp gets a pH tester. They get samples of the Garden Trio, the Peak Endurance, the Herbal Fiber Blend, the Lean Team, and the Barley Life and the Barley Life Extra. So they get to use this product. And what's so nice is you have them for 4 weeks. So in that 4-week period, they engage with you, they have questions, and they start using the products. And we've seen someone that had ovarian cancer, we saw a pH of 5.2 within 3 or 4 days of using the Barley Life go to a 7.4. And I mean, when someone who's been battling to alkalize themselves for months and nothing has helped starts taking a product like Barley Life, and it has such a profound effect on the alkalinity, they're going to want more. And so, that's what the boot camp is. It's teaching people basic principles about reading labels, alkalinity, how to balance your pH, digestion, how to make sure your digestion system functions optimally. And then the last week is just about a summary. We just tie up the loose ends.
We understand you made a valuable connection to a TV station. How did that come about?
The WIS TV anchor connection, how did that come about? Well, it's a very unique story, which I'd like to share because there's a bit of humor in it. But I was invited by the Palmetto Center of Businesswomen in Columbia, South Carolina, to actually not speak about health. I did address them about health at a later stage, but the first time they asked me to be their speaker, they asked me to share my personal testimony because 2 or 3 of their committee members had heard me give my testimony at the Billy Graham Conference Center at the Cove in North Carolina. And so I shared my testimony, and in the audience there was a TV anchor sitting, and that's the TV anchor I now deal with. And she sat there and she was so impressed by what she heard and my heart that she said she needed someone who is like-minded in spirit to be with her on the show. And she was actually taking a chance because she'd never heard me speak about nutrition, but she knew that she wanted me there. So I always say to people, how did I get on the show? The Lord himself put me there. It's one of those ridiculous stories.
Earlier, you mentioned a step of faith in putting on this larger conference. Can you elaborate on that?
Let me tell you, in my opinion, you will never grow your AIM business if you don't take risks. And in the 15 years that I have been with AIM, it's been difficult because I joined AIM when I was having babies. And then I'd have a baby and I'd just get back into the AIM thing and then the next baby would come. And so we have our seasons, but I try to share and relax and enjoy each season and doing as much as what I could with each season with regards to AIM. But one thing that I have learned is that you've got to be a giver to be successful in this business. And you know, I have given away, and my husband will attest to that, thousands of dollars worth of products. But I know my products so well that when I put something in their hand, it's going to help them and it's going to sort them out. And it's like this whole conference today. I literally delved into my own savings to do this. AIM helped me, but there were certain things that I had to do. But I took the step of faith. And if you are willing, I had to ask myself, what is the risk? And I just felt I couldn't go wrong because it was a positive risk. It wasn't a negative risk. So worst comes to worst, people will just not contact me again. But I think the meeting was a tremendous success, and you got to take risks. You got to be a giver. And some people just don't get it. So if you're starting out in this business, I would encourage you to have a giving heart. Even if you have to pour some of your Flora food in an envelope and rush it to someone down the street to help them, let me tell you, it'll be the best investment that you could have made.
What are your thoughts on follow-up?
Absolutely. Follow-up is key, and that's one thing that I honestly need to work on myself, is I need to follow up. And I think now that AIM is established here, I've walked a road with people. It's something that in my goal setting, I've set out to do is to follow up with more people. And, and specifically with products. You know, if someone buys a product from you, some of the products, for example, like the Pro Peas, I always say have no contraindications. You throw it in a smoothie and you drink it. But some of our products like the Herbal Fiber Blend, people need to know that it is important to drink water. People need to know not to start off with Barley Life, drinking 6 or 7 teaspoons. And so when you follow up with the people, when you walk a road with them, and they say, I feel terrible, this stuff is junk, you can say, no, but do you understand why you feel terrible? And that will not happen if you don't follow up. So absolutely, with regards to product sales and with regards to downline, people who sign up under you, you've got to stay in touch with them. And that's where I have fallen flat, partly because I'm a one-man show. It's just been so busy. Life has been crazy. But I realize that if I had to do that, it will probably be to my benefit and increase my commissions.
What do you have to say about goal setting?
It's very important to set goals, and my husband actually taught that to me, and my spiritual father, who's the director of our missions organization, he teaches us not only have to have 6 months, 1 year goals, 5-year goal plan. And I think, for me, it's in South Africa, I had a definite goal to get to director and then to the next level, but then we immigrated. We did a cross-cultural immigration, and it has taken a long time for us to settle down, to purchase a house after renting for 20 months. But I did have basic goals that I set that I feel that I accomplished far sooner than what I did accomplish. So yes, goal setting is very important, because the reason is when you set a goal and you've achieved it, it is so rewarding, and it motivates you when you achieve. And I think just in little ways, when I've set goals and I've achieved, I feel so much positive, I feel so much better, and I want to live. It gives me, it inspires me to carry on.
What are your reflections about your AIM business?
I believe that the Lord has blessed me with the AIM companies. You know why? Because I believe my heart is in the right place. And my heart is about people and not just selling product. And I think that's a big product that a lot of multi-level marketing companies make, is they lose focus of the people and they focus on the product. It becomes product-driven and not people-driven. And so that's one thing I have so appreciated about AIM, is that they are about educating. They are about, yes, we got a good product, but they care about the people. And that for me, and it says a lot about the owners of this company, because we all know in any company structure that what's at the top comes down. And so it's been about sacrifice, it's been about giving, and I think that's why I am where I am. I give, I sow into people's lives, and I know that it's going to pay back. Not that that's why I do it, but I know the principle is when you give, it'll be given unto you. When you sow, it'll be sown back to you. And that's the principle I live in my life.
What's next for Lere Robinson?
The next thing that I have, everyone is asking, when is Boot Camp 2? Boot Camp 1 has been written, when is Boot Camp 2? I have people saying, because currently Boot Camp is a 4-week program, and people will come for 2 hours once a week, 4 weeks consistently, and then the 5th week I take them grocery store shopping, and we read labels and I teach them what are good pasta sauces, etc. And I have had a lot of people saying, listen, I can't commit to 4 weeks or 6 weeks. Don't you want to do a Saturday morning 3-hour mini boot camp where we can come for 3 hours and you can teach us on the pH and the digestion and etc. And so I think what's next is probably looking at an option of putting together Boot Camp 2, and then also doing a mini boot camp on a Saturday or a weekday where people can come and commit 3 hours and be exposed to the product, be exposed to the information, and move on. Something I'd like to do next year is to repeat this conference, the Raw Truth Conference 2013. And I actually took a step of faith and I made little registration cards where people registered today. And on one of the check boxes was, would you like to be informed about Raw Truth 2013? So they know there's another one coming. And I had dentist wives approach me. I had authors of books approach me at today's meeting asking, if we knew about this, we would have given door prizes. We would have gotten involved. So I think people are going to leave from here today and they're going to go and talk. And it's just going to grow. It's going to get bigger. And I really believe we're going to outgrow this venue. We're going to have to move. But you know what? If there's one thing I've learned, and it's almost a cliche, that I want to encourage every new AIM member, is never despise the day of small beginnings. Because if you told me that I would end up in America as a South African, and all this happening, I would have laughed at you and said you were crazy. So never despise the day of small beginnings.
Tell us about your family.
Well, I have a precious family. My husband, Eddie Robinson, he's a missionary. He's been a missionary for 22 years. So he travels a lot, which makes it difficult. But he has, I think one of my successes is I have a husband that understands God's call on my life and has released me to do what I'm doing. So that helps tremendously. And then I have 3 beautiful daughters. Taylor is almost 14, Selena is 11, and little Chloe is 7. And they are all barley babies. I changed my whole lifestyle and my diet about 7 months to 8 months before I fell pregnant. I wanted to clean up my body before I fell pregnant. And so they had Barley Life, Herbal Fiber Blend, Omega, Flora Food. All of these things they had already started receiving in utero. And as babies, at the age of 3 months, I would take a knife and take a knife point of barley and put it in their mouths, and they loved it. So at the age of almost 14, 11, and 7, every morning they wake up, I don't have to say a word, and they take a swig of water, they take a big teaspoon of Barley Life, and then they mix the beets and the carrots together, and they drink that, and then they chew the Omega and they swallow the Flora Food. Never had an ear infection, never been on an antibiotic, and are healthy, healthy kids. I'm an A-League tennis player, or is what they call 4-0 tennis player here in the States. We all play tennis, the whole family, so we love to go out and play tennis together. My husband canoes on the river. I'm a runner as well, and so we really, really advocate a healthy lifestyle. I'm constantly saying to the kids, outside. God blessed us with a fixer-upper on 4 acres of land, beautiful land, and they are constantly outside, playing in the trees or running outside, and that's all part of, I think, a healthy lifestyle, is to encourage, the whole food supplements, the outside, the sport, being active, and that's what AIM represents, doesn't it?
Any final thoughts for our viewers?
I just want to encourage you. Don't be afraid, because you can do it too.
Thank you, Lere, for sharing your experience with us.